here we go.
And it was his old team, so showing a little bit of
course.
support there to the old squad. But Immortals versus Dignitas is what is on the cards today, and if Immortals can win here, they are indisputably the best team in the NA LCS right now. I mean, you take down the two teams that you were tied with in the same week for first, they would be sitting at 7-1, and their resurgence has been so impressive. Someone that I do want to highlight that we have not been talking enough about is Coach Sun. This guy, came in with this split. A lot of people have given tons of credit over to Xmithie, and credit where it is due. He has played very well, but people are talking about the team play, the macro effort, the vision game, how well these guys are working as a team, and certainly you have to highlight a new coach as someone who can help to elevate and really point in on the areas that you need to improve on and that you can improve on. It seems to have worked so well.
It's especially worth noting for these two teams that their wins are through macro play. They are not these insanely good early game teams where they're just smashing the lanes and I guess they close the game out. I mean, they are taking close games the first 15-20 minutes and then outplaying even these long-term opponents like CLG, like TSM, all these squads who know how to shot call, and they're still better than them at these kind of scenarios. As our champ has begun. Flame gets that first pick. Galio to be expected, but it gives over the Zac, and Shrimp gonna lock that one down right away.
Yeah, Zac as a first pick is rare to see that coming up.
And 95% ban rate.
Yeah, exactly. And to see an unpicked Zac go over to the red side is very surprising. Immortals certainly are going to have a plan. It's not like they're surprised by the fact that Zac is then selected. So, you need to see them look to kind of pick on the Zac. There are some ways you can do this. Something I've been seeing actually a lot in solo queue, not necessarily going to see it here today, but that is very good on this patch is Nunu. And Nunu can actually abuse the early game of Zac pretty heavily. You can get in there and invade. Likely going to be Gragas jungle. We still could see things swapped around. Because Zac is a strong clearing jungler, but he also scales extremely well, and he's not exactly a duelist in the early levels.
Yeah, not much of a duelist. It is worth noting that we are on 7.12, which does have some Zac nerfs in it. Obviously, the team's still unwilling to give it over on the most part, but less powerful than we'd seen in the previous weeks.
He is less powerful, but in my opinion, some of the item changes actually benefit him a lot. This is one of the best champions for building the new Locket, which is extremely strong on him. So despite some individual champion nerfs, I feel like the item buffs for this character still have him reigning supreme in the jungle.
Yep, definitely a good player here on this one. We're going to see what comes through, as Ssumday is playing his most played top laner with the Shen, the Cassiopeia going in for Keane as well, and all these teams have picked top jungle mid in the first few rounds.
Yeah, and the Cassio is considered not what I would call a counter to Galio, but maybe a favorable matchup. It's something that Faker has been using, and people have been starting to pick that up across the board because you essentially have this lane where you have enough sustain from your Twin Fangs that you can kind of heal through the poke. You can have a very strong farming lane. You should not be pressured heavily as far as like a solo kill or anything like that. And Cassio, when you can have those sorts of lane, you can get to the sort of sustained damage that Galio cannot deal with, and you're being allowed to kind of scale up in a relatively farm-heavy lane.
Yeah, Snake Champion all about the scaling here on this one as the second phase comes through. I mean, I've used the joke before, but it's so easy. Blitzcrank Rakan up table so far. Of course, it's been the split of tank supports, absolutely. There's a lot of theories I've heard about this as well. Doran Shield, of course, was credited with a lot of the big swing, but also I've heard credit to the fact that we're seeing more fighter top laners, so you need more tank stats somewhere else. Now, in this case, it's still tank top laners on both these sides, or at least a tank mid laner on the side of Immortals, but still, it seems like it's very common these players want to play beefier, playmaking supports, and it seems like the players really like it, so do the fans.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun to watch it. It's also easier to understand the impact that the supports are having in the game. They are the ones initiating a lot of these fights, so you're able to see these guys get highlighted more, get more credit for the great play that they are having. And Bard going to be taken off the table here as well. If they pick Morgana, that's actually pretty cool. So this is something that is a takeaway from Olleh. So you look at Olleh's champion pool, some of his most popular champions, Thresh, the Blitzcrank, the Bard, and then the Karma and the Morgana, right? So it's like you essentially have now...
His 5 most played are all off the table.
Yeah, so you ban out between the two sides his 4 most played, basically. You take away the Morgana, which is the 5th there, and you're putting him in a position where he now has to show something different.
And he's going to play Nami. Like Tom Kench, apparently not something he wants to play. Braum, nothing he doesn't want to play either on this one. I think Nami is a good lane matchup into Morgana, even though it sounds kind of weird you block out of CC. I just feel like the lane works very well for the champion, and now Immortals have to show their bot lane marksman.
And while you can obviously block some of the CC coming out of Nami, Nami has such good trading and sustain in the lane that you can bully out of Morgana, certainly. And definitely in combination with the Varus, if they do lock this in, it should be a strong laning duo. That said, Nami is a squishy champion. If you get caught by a binding as a Zac or someone like that is going to come in, you are not going to get much of a chance to do anything to react because this team is extremely CC heavy across the board. You have Zac, you have Shen. That's a ton already. Then Morgana with the binding and the ultimate to lock you up. There's Cassio ultimate, now there's Ashe. Like, this is a ridiculously CC-heavy team from Team Dignitas, and playing something like Nami, if you ever get caught by one, you're almost certainly going down.
Absolutely the case. So engage tools here everywhere on Team Dignitas. The damage output still does exist. Cassiopeia's got plenty. Ashe, not terrible in her own right as well. We'll see what comes through as the rest of the draft has completed. Immortal's going to put Flame on another fighter. It seems to be his most common playstyle, to be honest. He's playing a lot of these Black Cleaver using auto-attacking top laners, so he can be a damage source of his own.
Yeah, guys like Renekton, J4 really have been very popular. They all kind of build the same here, too. You go Black Cleaver, Titanic, and then we're seeing the Stoneplate almost always as that third option. You do have some other kind of routes you can take. If you are snowballing, you can go for more heavy damage. If you're falling behind, you can go more heavy tank, things like this. But that 3-item core is exceptionally strong, and I love the champions like Kled for someone such as Flame because he's doing well in lane, and then you can take that lead and you can roam elsewhere. You can make plays, engages on mid lane, on bot lane, things like this, and can sometimes work pretty well in combination with that.
Definitely can. So Champ Select is over and the players ready to go into this one. Shrimp seemingly getting the nod as the new go-to starter of Team Dignitas. It's been several weeks in a row now that he is the go-to player, and they put their faith in him, and it has worked out so far for this team in yellow and black. Meanwhile, Immortals hoping to keep that run toward first place, but Dignitas could end it right now and take that title back over here. Still got to see which one it's going to be for us as Champ Select is over and ready to dive into this game. It's the end of Saturday here in the North American LCS on the second stream, but we are ready to go for game one of this one to see who can be the #1 squad as game one begins.
And it's going to be an exciting one. Both teams have such a crazy amount of engage, right? And it's going to be a lot about who is able to pick the correct fights, who is able to find that initial opportunity. Because with Kled and Gragas, those are multiple great ways in for the Galio to find these hard engages. And similarly with Ashe, you can engage very easily with him, with Zach, and so much of the fights I feel like are going to come down to who can get the first pick, who can kill someone off before they can react. Because if you can knock in someone like the Cassio or the Ashe from Dignitas and delete them, there's not a lot of sustained DPS left in the rest of the team.
That's the case here, and we'll wait to see what's going to happen as Flame walks in, looks what Shrimp is doing, and of course Zach really likes to kill Raptors at the very start. You can hit them all easy with the W, they're easy to knock around.
And I certainly expect him to try, but they've kind of ceded vision control completely on that side of the map, so he may not be really having that opportunity. Gragas is sitting over there, so is the Kled. Galio can be extremely frustrating to deal with when you're trying to take those Raptors, because if Galio just comes and throws over a delayed Q, he can steal away the mini Raptors very easily, which can make sometimes starting on that side of the map not worthwhile, and that's why we see Shrimp over towards that blue buff. He's going for the safer option.
Yep. And you can see that there was those 2 deep trinket wards put down by Immortals to help track him, but Shrimp won't be seen early on.
And this is going to be a bit of a back and forth battle. Keane wants to try to steal away some of these little Raptors. If he can actually steal 2, you can take away level 2 off the camp at all. So now this means he still gets level 2, but he doesn't get them from the little Raptors. If you take the second, you don't get level 2 off the camp at all, which is really the big win. So this is like okay, but not a massive deal for Xmithie.
Right, he's going to get to the same things. He can't go for the XP Quint level 3 super power farm route, but that's not going to be a major issue on a Gragas anyway.
Yeah, and the big punish is really when they're at level 1 after the first camp, now you have a non-leashed red buff that you have to clear as a level 1 Gragas, which takes so long, and that can really put you behind. So not going to have to deal with that. Both junglers going to be on pretty even terms.
Right, we get to see the rest of these lanes as they pan out right now. Looks like a pretty heavy farm route for Shrimp. Blue into Wolves, might do Raptors first before he goes to the red buff. He knows, again, Gragas, not much of an invading champion. We really get to see Zach in this one, but you expect that Shrimp has the practice to play it well.
Yeah, sometimes you don't, though. I mean, where are you going to practice this a lot, right? That's sometimes the question is, in solo queue, this is essentially a permaban. If you don't expect to get it in scrims, then you're probably not running Zach that often in scrims. So it's not something that you can just log on and practice online. It's sometimes a little bit tougher to get those games in on the permaban champions.
Absolutely, but we'll see. We've so far seen pretty good performances out of the Zacs, but you're right, it's still remains to be seen, and of course Immortals happy to take the risk here for themselves. Nice hawk shot by Lod, perfectly timed, sees that Xmithie is in fact taking his blue, and they can summarize his exact jungle path based in his CS so far. The Wolves are dead as well.
And this is pretty nice from Ssumday. So Ssumday essentially needed to have the wave all the way to the turret. If you're going to shove, you need to hard shove and have it bouncing by the time the jungler takes that other blue. And Pobelter just going to TP back to lane, but they could look for something on Keane if he steps a little bit too far forward. I should be aware of where the jungler is or where the jungler could be, though.
I think it's likely Xmithie might end up crossing paths with Shrimp. Is he going to satchel the wall? Yes. Blast Cone puts him over here, and now he sees an enemy champion. Gonna steal away a couple of these little Krug pieces, but Shrimp gonna get the rest of the camp.
Yeah, not a big deal at all. Xmithie has to get out of there because he sees Ssumday missing from that lane. Does not want to get collapsed on. So both junglers, very even overall. Shrimp did kind of take down that one extra camp, though.
Exactly, yeah. Shrimp is up one camp, losing one medium Krug, not a huge deal. He's up that one camp otherwise, but there's a gank in the top side. Looking for this one here is Ssumday. Gonna find somewhere to run, puts the taunt down, hoping to find a little bit more. Nice flash, still
so
gonna
well
land.
done.
Beautiful by Xmithie, but he's got to slow here. This Shen, can they get him under the turret? It's gonna be close. Yes, he does. The violent tendencies do what the name describes on the tin, and Flame gets first blood.
That was so well done by Xmithie. He throws out the body slam knowing Ssumday will flash react. Then he redirects his body slam with that flash, still catching Ssumday after he pops that summoner. But you have to criticize Ssumday a little bit. The wave is pushing back towards him. There's no reason to be this far up. That's just greeting for CS. Gragas is topside. You knew that. And you're fighting for what will essentially be a loss of 2 to 3 CS if you sit back and let the wave push. Because it has fully bounced. You're going to get almost all that farm. Instead, he wants to fight for that 1, for that 2 CS, really greeted out. Right. And he gets punished by a beautiful play here from Xmithie.
Right, it's not like there even should be any communication issues. Shrimp is also Korean. They can easily talk to one another. There should be no issues at all. And you're right, it is greed by Ssumday, and it punishes him here. Flash down, TP used to get back to lane. Only Ruby Crystal refillable on the recall. And Flame actually able to walk back to lane because of the way the wave was, so TP advantage for Immortals. Yeah,
it's really nice for Flame. Because he also was the one who gets the first blood. It's not that the jungler just came and killed his lane opponent. He actually picks that up, so that early buy of the Tiamat going to be very good here on the champion as well.
Definitely going to feel great. There's that long-range buy, but no follow-up available. Olleh can heal himself, and unless there is an all-in, he's going to be honestly okay with this without many issues here. Quick Krug clear for Xmithie, and these two little ones will drop to the W and a couple auto attacks afterwards. A little annoying killing Krugs is Gragas because the W's % health damage, you actually don't kill the small Krugs with the big empowered task flam. But it's just like, oh wait, they didn't take any damage. I've got to use something else now.
It can be a little bit frustrating. A lot of champions really do struggle with those Krugs, and on some champions, people actually just skip them pretty much altogether because it's so annoying to take them down until you have something like, you know, a bombing cinder for your Cinderhawk, and you have some sort of AoE item, you know, maybe like a Hurricane, someone like Kindred really can struggle with that too.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of jungle paths where they'll kill just the big one and then like one medium and small ones and just walk away. They don't go for the rest of the camp because the last little pieces. They have so much armor, it's really hard for physical damage junglers to kill that thing off. And now, another fight in the top side of the map. Both junglers are around though, so Xmithie gonna be here first, but Shrimp around the walls and he's in fog of war. Ssumday still buying some time. The fact that he turned aggressive at all, I think, kind of gave away Shrimp's location because again, I don't think he was seen, but the dive didn't continue for Immortals.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they got fully in range of Shrimp. I do agree maybe Ssumday could have tried to bait it out a bit harder because they were actually in a position where they could have perhaps won that fight. And Big now under trouble.
A lot of damage. The flash fall from Autotech gets the Shen ulti out, and Law dodges the bubble. Olleh not long for the world, and the kill comes through. Big sadly gets the kill on support, but still one kill is nice to have.
That was really well done, actually, both from Ssumday, but also from Big. You know, playing it pretty cool, redirecting to kind of turn around and bring that Shen back in. So many players, as they're getting that Shen ultimate, actually just run him out of range because they're so afraid of dying.
Right.
So delivering in Ssumday, picking up a kill in that bot lane, going to be pretty good for them.
Really good for them, absolutely agree. And I don't know if Ssumday just barely hit level 6 or if Immortals didn't communicate, but certainly that all-in got turned around by that ultimate.
Yeah, he had been 6 before even the gank happened topside. So he's been 6 for a while here, something that they certainly should be playing around, but it's easy to forget. It was a nice sidestep from Olleh, and that's what kind of prompted the all-in. When that binding misses, it's very tough for Morgana to actually turn around and fight back, but Big able to just step in. It was a good bait and very quick Shen ultimate to turn around that kill. So Ssumday makes a bit of a mistake topside, but makes up for it a bit more here.
Right, and he's even still up in farm. He had to walk all the way back to top lane, and he's still up 11 gold or 11 CS right here. So credit for the recovery to Ssumday.
Yeah, and Shen can actually duel up very well against someone like Kled. We also have to remember that Flame did not TP back to lane. He's saving that for his team, so that is something that garners the Shen a little bit more farm there too. But you know, it's one of those things where generally you will start losing the 1v1 later, but it takes quite a while for Shen to actually start losing to champions like this.
Absolutely, so we'll see if that comes through later on to this one. Flame's still getting attack damage. His teammate's done, of course, and we'll wait for a bit more. Ssumday building to the Jarm's Fist first. Teammate will come in later, though. It's almost ubiquitous here in this champion to get some level of wave clear. Xmithie clears away some Krugs. Mid lane pretty close to equal. It is Keane doing a bit better, of course. Immortals showed that it was Galio mid based on their first half of the draft, and Keane said, yes, my best possible pick here is the Cassiopeia. Give it to me. It's the counter pick, or or the strong matchup that whether it's a technically counter pick or not. It is Keane doing pretty well here into this one in the bot lane. That kill, of course, gives a small nod to Lod, even though he was down in farm.
And I definitely agree that it's more in the camp of strong matchup or a good answer rather than counter, because the Cassio should not be like just killing Pobelter over and over, but you have this hyper scaling team fighting champion that has sustain built in that once you get some items built up can really start to bully the Galio, right? And it's not someone where you're going to struggle to wave clear against him. It's not someone where you're going to get poked out, and it's not someone where you're going to get outscaled. So it kind of checks all the boxes that you would want from this mid lane matchup, and I think that's why people are playing the Cassio more and more.
Absolutely the case, and it's looking pretty good. Teamfight damage, certainly great to have. More poke onto this one, but the magic damage shield makes it not terrible.
One thing I don't love, though, about the comp is when you're playing into a Galio, having an AP laner against him is fine. Although he does obviously really like to itemize MR. But if you have physical damage sources from elsewhere, that can make it so he can't just itemize super efficiently against you. That being said, Zac is essentially mostly AP, well, basically all AP. Shen is actually mostly magic damage. The Morgana is mostly magic damage, so it's just Lod. So Pobelter is going to have a very easy time stacking MR and not really having to worry against most of these teams.
Because even Lod hasn't had very good damage stats so far this split. Immortals, though, going to be dove down here to this one. Going to miss.
Bounce.
Yeah, that's going to be all the damage they need. He is gone for certain. Shrimp gets the kill, and the turret's going to be next up.
Really well done, utilizing that level 6 on the Ashe arrow, even bringing down Cassio just in case. That covers any insurance policy with someone TPing in or something like that. So they're going to race for the first turret. Bot lane should be able to get it as they have the extra members down there. This is very well done, and you know what? I honestly, in a lot of cases, would just like to see you give that solo gold over to Lod, since Immortals are not racing for it, and he's your only physical damage component. So you really want to get this guy strong, because if he is not strong, Gragas just itemizes only MR. Pobelter itemizes only MR. You build early lockets, and you have a lot of answers to the magic damage coming out of Dig.
Absolutely agree. So we'll see if it ends up coming down to Lod doing well, or if Dignitas can snowball off an early game lead. 1,000 gold up for them. The Mountain Drake going to be grabbed without much issue as well. Means they can keep playing the early pressure, and with Lod going for the Ruin King build on this Ashe, they have absolutely very high Baron threat. Cassiopeia, Ruin King, Mountain Drake.
And I think the Blade of the Ruin King is a very smart build here, just because you're looking at like multiple tanks here too, right? So it makes a lot of sense for multiple reasons. But there always is the threat. There's always the strategy of, especially when you have such heavy dive, kill the 1AD threat, itemize MR, don't actually build armor, just count on the fact that Xmithie and Pobelter are going to be able to dive and knock him in and kill him before he can get something done.
Well, if the dive can happen, then it's going to look good for them, but they've got to deal with Black Shields and Zacs and Cassiopeias and even a Shen.
Yeah, and tons of CC.
Right, the peel is there for Lod, so I think it's definitely his game to carry if he wants to do so. Team Dignitas, again, no slouches in their own right, holding on to this 1,000 gold lead, but Immortal's going to hope to walk into this bot lane here. They've gotten some pressure before, but Shrimp waiting in the wings.
Oh, and Xmithie gets caught. They're going to go for the follow-up.
The ward missed, but Kled's coming in as well. They're going to find Vic. Not for a lot of CC, though. Flashed away, and the cast means nothing because the Black Shield is still on. Now Galio to join the fight. Not going to find anything, though, except some minions to kill off.
Shrimp must have really hesitated there. He had not been spotted, was in the bush the whole time, still didn't jump in, now looking, but I feel like you can't go at this point. It's too late.
Missed a couple of ults now. Xmithie going to get slowed down a little bit. Flame actually loses his passive as well, so he's got to run away for this one, and Immortals just slightly over-diving. Even though Keane was never around, they couldn't get the fire to work.
Yeah, I think Shrimp maybe could have jumped in on the initial play when they did CC Xmithie up so heavily because they had a binding. Morgana ult, the Ashe ult, if you go in on him with that Zac, maybe you take him down, but they were scared about fully committing to the fight because Keane was not there. He could not roam. And to be fair, you're still getting the advantage of Keane getting the extra farm and CS and pushing in on that turret. So as long as you don't die on bot side, as long as you don't give up a turret, it's still very good for Dig.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be okay for them right here. And Keane got the pressure in the mid lane. His farm's going up and up. He's plus 18 right now over Pobelter. We'll see if that tank pick works out a little bit later right now. But free farming Cassiopeia, the strong matchup, looks pretty solid. Keane can feel good about this one. We'll wait to see what the next big play is. Of course, with the Drake down, the only neutral objective on the map is the Rift Herald. In the cast yesterday, we saw the teams actually lane swap really quickly to get over there. Either of these teams seem to have high priority on it.
Yeah, they are swapping it up now as Ssumday has gone bot, so I think they're going to try to pressure mid lane. But it does seem a little bit of a strange choice, as that is where the Galio is, who can very easily wave clear. If anything, you would think you'd want to lane swap top and really start to pressure the Kled, who can't wave clear as safely.
Ooh, and Cody Sun lands the Q. Actually, Xmithie gets the smite just in time. The piercing arrow comes in, so a nice red buff onto the best possible wielder See if that means much. 700 gold difference, actually. Ssumday, nice trinket ward to make sure he's not getting ganked. Of course, Olleh can trade that out pretty easily.
Now, finally, Dig bot lane are going up top, and Kled is pretty far up here. Big has the ultimate available, so we'll see if he can catch Flame.
Point blank ulti. He's going to try to maybe face tank the... actually, Flame doesn't have it. There's really no way out. Lands the binding a little bit early, but the Ashe are going to come down. That's going to force the dismount. Now can Flame get away? Lands some autos, lands the pocket pistol, slowed down by Ashe, and he's got no way out, and he cannot remount in time. Lod gets the kill, and the head start is continuing.
Really well done from Big. I mean, that's a simple play to make, but they executed quite well. Flame did not have vision on the top side, really, besides just that one ward, which was actually avoided by the Morgana, so they pick up a kill there. Very nicely done. Goes over to Lod, and he'll be happy to receive that.
I think it's interesting. I want to make a minor dig, actually, or yeah, a dig at Big right here. Pun not intended. He did use his Q, I think, too early. The Morgana ultimate is a 1.5 second long stun. There are no Merc treads. There's no way out for Flame. Wait as long as you can so that you can get the full duration stun, wait at least a second, toss the Q out, get the full duration there, wait even longer, then toss the Ashe arrow out, and they overlap CC a little bit too much. Sure, they got the kill, but if Flame were any tankier, there's the chance he actually remounts because enough time was bought or something else. And I always like to see them optimize. They didn't quite do it, but it did still work out for Team Dignitas.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice smite by Xmithie.
And it can be one of those things, while I do agree, you always should be going for the optimal play, the kind of perfect CC lap. It could be one of those things where they're saying, hey, Flame has no flash, no chance for him to get out, and they're just kind of, you know, business as usual, just training him down. Either way, they get the kill, so not the biggest of deals, but we'll see if that CC overlap can come back to bite them later in the game. Yeah,
the only reason I bring it up is because Big is not a huge Morgana player. So if this continues to be an issue and someone does slink away at 50 health, it's like, well, you didn't have the reps on Morgana right here. It was a takeaway. It was a champ select thing to try to put Olleh on something less comfortable. And Olleh's 0-2. I mean, this choice may still very work out, even if he's not the perfect Morgana player. As we have this game, actually, that's still sitting very close, though. Immortals farming really nicely. You're seeing Cody Sun get a pretty big farm lead over his lane opponent, and the rest of their team grabbing the scraps pretty well.
And Cody Sun has just been such a point of strength for the team this season. I really do like his play. And I'm very excited to see how he's going to be able to perform because he has all these pieces around him to protect him, right? You have such a beefy front line. You do have all the tools kind of put in there to try to protect you from this dive and to allow you to carry.
See if they can get much for that one. The taunt's not going to be much against Shrimp, who was able to jump in time. And the turret, though, very, very low, about 500 health left on that.
Interesting to see Pobelter actually goes Adaptive Helm here first. And I know you've done some of the math on that, and that is something that is very rarely efficient. Yeah. You know, it's almost always better to go something like a Spirit Visage, and I think even on Galio, going for the Abyssal Mask can be a really strong choice to amp up some of the magic damage coming out of, you know, Xmithie, yourself, and Olleh.
Sure. This is definitely going to be tankier than Abyssal Mask. That said, I do love Abyssal Mask, and it's good for the offense, obviously, especially with the magic damage dealer like Xmithie on your team. But, right, you have to take almost sort of 2,500, 2,000 something damage from Cassiopeia overall after magic resist for it to matter here. And that's just comparing against Spirit Visage, right? That's for the unique passive to be good enough here. No one else is going to have that kind of repeated magic damage. In a team fight, he's almost definitely caring more about Lod than Keane, in which case you'd rather just have the health to deal with Ashe auto attacks. So I'm of the opinion that it seems like a slightly weak buy, but we'll see what happens over this one. If he really is dueling Keane, then it will become efficient.
Certainly possible. But Keane is really going to take over, I think, in that 1v1. Like, from this point forward, it's so hard to ever see Galio having much potency in a duel against Keane, because Keane really is going to be tanky enough that he can't really get burst down by Galio, and you have enough sustain at this point that he really can become very, very strong. And, you know, he is going to be such a massive frontline threat. I'm kind of interested to see how early Keane is going to decide to pick up something like a Void Staff, as you know that a lot of MR is going to be stacked by the front line. There's
the flash over the blind. Look for the root, look for the team fight. Now the flash forward by Big is going to find himself at least one stun, but here comes Galio. Stops the bounce, but Cody Sun going to lose his life first without flash available. 1 for 0 so far. Nice knockback on a Keane means Flame going to chase down for this kill. Pobelter running down to the wings, but the CC is there to keep Keane alive. A couple more seconds, but Olleh finally gets a shutdown.
It's here now.
Xmithie forced to run away, going to get over the wall. Pobelter finds himself one taunt. Flame back and forth, does remount. But will there be much more of a fight? It is a 4v4 root onto the tank in the mid lane. Ssumday wants a bit more, waiting for his taunt to be back up, but not going to go for the play just yet. Flame back to full HP already, remounting nicely. Well done to Skarl there.
And it's actually just a 1-for-1, but they are pushing forward. Ssumday taking quite a bit of damage here. And Immortals want to use the chip damage that they've gotten to try to pressure the turret, but not having your AD carry up, it's very hard to siege.
Yeah, there's really no ranged champions left to do meaningful damage, so out they go for this one. The Shrimp goes back to the jungle to farm back up. Team Dignitas, though, able to get up a couple hundred extra gold off the end of that fight as everyone goes back to clear their map.
That was a very, very even team fight. You would have thought more people would be going down, but pretty well played on both sides. And it's so many tanky members. As damage dealers do fall, it's very hard to actually finish people off. You know, Cody Sun went down, and Keane went down, and then there's just not a lot of DPS kind of left in the tank.
And at that point, they can ignore him as they take down that mid lane turret. Well played to the tanks of Team Dignitas. The early quicksilver sash by Cody Sun is a little weird because there's not a lot of damage on the Immortals lineup, and delaying damage up it seems a bit suspect.
It's tough, though, because at the same time, if he goes down, you know, there's almost nothing left in the way of team fight damage for them, right? Gragas and Galio are not going to put out a lot. Kled has some burst, but he could get kited very heavily. And there's so many, like, CCs here. If you get hit by a binding, you probably lose a team fight. Hit by an Ashe arrow, probably lose a team fight. So,
sure,
yes, you can, you know, try to play it perfectly where you don't buy that item and you just say, I am going to dodge everything and my front line's going to block everything. But, you know, I think it's a reasonable choice because the cost of getting hit is so high.
Sure, and it doesn't have to be Cody Sun's fault that he's in this scenario. This could be, well, champ select is a point where good luck being a backliner, good luck having no damage. This could just be Immortals being out-comped, and there's no good way out for Cody Sun. He's just in the situation now.
And, you know, this is a game where I think rushing for something like a Michaelis from Olleh would be very, very strong because there is so much CC, and, you know, that takes a long time to get to, too. And they're looking for the dive now. Galio could follow up in the ultimate here if they decide. Nope.
Flame not quite in range for any hard CC, but does buy himself a bit of time. Turret's not going to go down. The bubble going to buy a bit, though, but here comes the taunt on the front line, looking for a bit more on the Flame. Taunt's going to come across. A stun on the front line tank, though, and Pobelter doesn't even feel the damage. His shield was enough, but Shrimp comes back in for a bit more. Knocked up into the air. The knockback is there. Well played by Xmithie, and a Bloblets they go. A taunt onto Ssumday. Bubble going to land as well. All the CC they need to kick off the tanks, just maybe. As Ignite burns down on the Shen, and they're not quite going to get him, but Shrimp is still dead. They bought all the time they needed. 1-4-0, and it works out.
It's just, these front lines are just going at it, and Lod was not there at the start of the fight. That's the difference maker. Cody Sun was pumping out damage. Lod had to come down from the top side, so it was a good force from Immortals. Even though there's 4 members, there's essentially only one source of real damage. The Shen and the Zac are doing very, very little, and now they're going for a dive.
The flash knockup is there. Black Shield's in front, the top, but it still means that Keane is caught out. He receives the Shen for his troubles. Cody Sun forced to QSS to run away. One more shot would kill him, but he can't find a Pobelter heroically entrances and exits the team fight there, but it's still a death of 2 as Cody Sun did in fact burn down. A double kill for Keane.
Oh, and Keane now, you do not want to be giving him those kills. This is a guy who really can take over the fights big time, and I think that the further into this game we get, the more in the favor of Dignitas it will be. With Xmithie down, they have Cassio with a blue buff. They can rush down this Baron ridiculously fast. I don't think there's any chance that Immortals can really contest this. Sure, the TP's coming in, but what are you going to do?
Who's going to even steal it? Flame can't jump walls the first half of his E. The Galio cannot either. There's literally nothing to be gained. He satchels over the wall and knocks up one, but there's no team fight around. He's slowed by Ashe. Nice bubble by some time, but Black Shield keeps Lod kicking. He's going to get that kill picked up. I don't know what that TP was about. Literally, it was unstealable.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those desperation things. They perhaps felt like the game was lost if they don't stop that Baron, so they decide to go for that really low percentage play. It doesn't work out, though. The Baron goes over to Dignitas, and they now have a stranglehold on this game.
They really do. Nicely played here. Team Dignitas up 3,500 on this one, and we watch the mid lane fight again.
And the dive comes in once more, but the Shen ultimate is up and perhaps wasn't really respected. Nice Morgana. Black Shield gets Lotta, who is the lower of the members, and then Ssumday with a good ult selection onto Keane, choosing that Cassio, who's going to be the one going aggressively forward. As soon as they take down Xmithie, they have the ability to just go right over towards the Baron. No jungler down, the Zac can respawn, and they're able to secure that.
Really well played on them. And speaking of junglers being down, Xmithie also with that helm, it is even less debatable here. You have a self-heal. Visage is by far the better item there, and it's bad itemization, honestly. Mistakes out of Immortals. And look, these aren't going to be game-losing mistakes, but there's still optimizations that should be made here. As Team Dignitas just playing better in a lot of different fronts. Phantom Dancer now done for Lod, means he can even dual Flame a bit better. And it looks like just down the line, Team Dignitas having a much better game.
And it also looks like Lod's just going to build into the double Zeal items. I think Hurricane could be very effective here with 3 melee champions that are going to be up and getting AoE'd by the Ashe. That's a very powerful buy. You know, looking at Pobelter, the Galio, the Gragas, the Kled, all going to be up there, and that makes it a super, super powerful build, I think, for Lod.
Absolutely agree, and he's going to do pretty well for himself. I want to see his damage numbers at the end. He hasn't been in all the team fights, but when he is in, the damage is there. Flame always going to cast him a little bit short to make sure he doesn't over dive, but it means that he's got no chase, and there's no tail to that. And just Dignitas able to walk away and prevent the engage happening at all.
It's a tough spot for Immortals now, though, because they are going to get pretty heavily outscaled, I feel like, with this Cassio in the mid lane. I think she can start to really take over fights. You have the playmaking ability, but that's really what it's going to come down to. Unless Xmithie can get a great ultimate and they can burst someone down, unless they can find this awesome Kled engage in a straight-up just 5v5 fight, Dignitas should almost always win, I feel like, from this point forward.
It seems likely. And we'll see if they can make that one happen here to this one as we wait for the pushes to keep going. 1 minute left on the Baron. They've got that Infernal Drake. And Immortals only just hiding and waiting as their marksman is a full item behind at this point. It's Zeal versus Phantom Dancer. And honestly, at this point, Lod can finish his next Zeal, no problem. And no damage. And
Dig just doesn't need to rush anything, right? They can play patiently. They can just farm and scale. So I think that's a big reason why they're not being super aggressive with this Baron yet. They're going to get all the lanes shoved in, then try to chip away and just get the guaranteed gold leads because I think they feel they have the scaling advantage, and I certainly tend to agree. Plus, the only way you really lose or kind of throw from here is getting hard engaged. So play it slow, establish vision, get all the lanes working, and then look to do something.
Ooh, they're going to find Lod through a big taunt there as well, but Shrimp is going to buy a bit more time, and Big in the front lines, though, should be running away with this, and there's the knockback. Can they kill him in time? And they can't. Here comes Ssumday, puts the dodge zone, looking for a taunt as well. Pobelter buying a bit more time. The auto's coming in. They're going to knock down Xmithie. It's a 1-for-1 so far, though supports have dropped for the IMT jungler. The team fight still seemingly won by Team Dignitas Line-up to keep pushing.
Yeah, Keane is still full health. They're going to look to continue this dive. Oh, not going to hit the Q.
Not going to land it just yet. Pobelter walking away safely on this, but the siege can maybe keep going. Baron buff timing out now, but they got plenty out of it. 6,000 almost the gold lead.
And they're actually looking to threaten the dive. Shrimp's going to go in. These people are low on mana.
Gonna miss a little bit more. Nice knockback into a pretty big top, but is the damage even there? Cody Sun has to do something. This doesn't have the items for it to matter at all. One more. Dignitas is running away. Shrimp's gonna stay safe.
Kled ultimate is up. It doesn't look like they're gonna decide to chase here though, as Galio's heading over to the top side. So didn't get too much with this Baron buff, but they got, I think, enough. They have a pretty comfortable gold lead now. They can go back, spend up that gold, and really get themselves to a point where they are gonna be pretty powerful. I think that the Abyssal Mask on Shen is actually very intelligent to buff up the Cassio himself, the Zac, the Morgana. Like, this is a lot of sources that he is going to be helping out. So I like that buy from Ssumday, and I'm very heavily in favor of these kind of supportive tanky buys, like things like, you know, I'd love to see a Knight's Vow out of him. Things like the Locket, I think, are so strong and so efficient now on these tanks when you have very powerful carries.
That's the case here, and we'll see if that supportive power comes in soon. Right now, just waiting for the reset as Team Dignitas clear out their jungle. They go back for one next set of buys. And yeah, a pretty respectable 4,000 gold Baron power play. Infernal Drake included in that as well. Not as a gold number, aside from the 25 you get from last hitting it, but even more gained with that buff. Next Drake's going to be second Infernal, so more things Team Dignitas would like to close the game out with. As we go back onto the map, it's actually going to be Lod mixing and matching his items, going towards what's probably a Guardian Angel with that BF sword, I'm going to guess. Could be IE as well, but either way, that doesn't build from a Brawler's Gloves.
Yeah, it could just be an IE now. Maybe just deciding to change that up. I think that, you know, even like a Bloodthirster could be pretty effective when it's pretty low damage output, then you're not really threatened. So certainly has some options here. Not going to go the path that we originally were expecting with that Brawler's Glove, but it's not going to be a big deal either way. And there's so many interesting itemization choices I now feel like with the increase in strength and some of these supportive items.
Yeah.
You know, Gargoyle Stoneplate is very strong for you individually, but you know, how do you weigh that against something like the Locket or the Knight's Vow that can really, you know, empower your carries who are the kind of the main focus? And this is these kind of choices I think are very interesting.
And even you still have items like Zeke's Convergence, which I know was, you know, thought to be very good coming in, but Knight's Vow got arguably better. It got some CDR on it and whatnot, and you've got to still decide across all these different items, what is the optimization for me? Who do I support? Do I support the entire team with the Locket? Do I support one person with Knight's Vow? Do I buff up their damage instead with Zeke's? What else can I go for here? Maybe we get a Righteous Glory, as we all know Captain Flowers loves for himself on his Skarner, and we'll see what comes next. But Team Dignitas waiting to close this one out and make the game one look solid.
Yeah, they are certainly in control. You know, getting some vision out, trying to play this pretty safe, pretty slow. Shen is just going to be pushing in the bot side, and as long as you draw the Kled down to you, you can then roam and look to make a play, or you can just keep him kind of in this neutral position. And Dignitas are just looking to slowly kind of out-farm their opponents, take over the jungle, take over, you know, these side lanes, and really look to eke out any small advantage that they can get.
So we'll see what comes through. Waiting to go as here comes Flame looking for damage on a Ssumday, and he's supposed to be able to win this one-on-one. He's got a level deficit and only gets so much damage down. Going to wait out Ssumday's shield and walk right back out of this one.
And I think, to be fair, eventually he would if they fought for a long time, but he doesn't know where everyone on Dignitas is, so he doesn't really have the luxury of fighting for that long time. Lod just barely misses Will Shrimp. Yep.
They're going to dash away, take a couple turret shots, heals right back up. They're going to kite away from the slows. There's the Q from Shrimp finding something. And here comes Galio with the grand entrance, finds double knockups, looking for a big here in this one. Taunt's going to land, buys a bit more time, but they can't kill him off. The rest of CC is there. Cassiopeia, played by Keane, going to zone them right back out.
And they get the TP out of Flame. Ssumday did not respond. They were confident that they could get away, so now they have that pressure. We're seeing Immortals look for the engage.
And they're going to look for a little bit of something on this one. Keane knocked around for a couple more seconds, and now Shrimp in the front line, looking for plenty to do. Let's Bounce brings in the back line. And Cody Sun going to lose his life for it. Couldn't get away. His flash was down. And the CC to be found is Xmithie trying to run for his life. One more shot would kill him, and Ssumday and Keane gonna make that happen, and Pobelter next up to die. There's no way out. A double kill for Lod in the back line. And now only 2 members alive for Immortals. Team Dignitas have the Baron, they have the mid lane.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to keep pushing. There's such long death timers. They could potentially end the game or even just take the inhibitor, then go back to the Baron. So they have a lot of options here.
And it's going to be the mid lane at the very least. The turret's going to fall 15 seconds in the first respawn, and it's 30 for the rest of them here into this one. Inhibitor will fall, and the call is likely to be go back to the Baron, and they ping it.
Yeah, and I think this is the smartest choice. This is essentially a guaranteed victory that you can get. No way that that inhibitor can be contested. And if you try to stay around and end the game and you get aced, then you lose the Baron and you can throw. So this is very smart. There's no way that Xmithie can actually get here in time. TP is up on Pobelter, but I don't think they can even try to contest.
You're right. I think it's the exactly optimal shot call you could make right here, and it's Team Dignitas. It's so funny thinking about it because this has been a team who's reshaped what a Team Dignitas Baron is at this point. It's been good calls for this. It's been good shot calling here for this squad. You think of a team with Ssumday on it, and you're like, all right, yeah, they've got to carry top laner to win the game. It's like, no, you're going to play Shen every game. We're going to shot call our way to victory, and it's happened here for Team Dignitas. Immortals making the best of a bad situation. They're able to grab that Infernal Drake. That's a compensation, I guess. It's a, you know, a secondary prize here, but Team Dignitas, I think, with his Baron buff and 10,000 gold, likely to close the game out.
Yeah, and it's just about this initial play. When Cody Sun goes down, that is all their damage. There's just nothing really left there. So the Shen ultimate is forward onto the Zac. He's able to bring him in with the slap, flash in on him there from Shrimp, pull him back while he's taunted. So much CC overlapped on a Cody Sun. They pull him back with that Let's Bounce right into the carries, take him down, and then it's a full retreat for Immortals. There's just no damage left if Cody Sun goes down. And essentially it just feels like Dignitas has the one extra damage threat, and that's all they really needed. You know, the Kled, sure, he is a DPS champion, but he's locked down, he's isolated, and Cassio and Ashe are getting so much work done.
Absolutely, they are. They're doing well for themselves here. And now we've got the special old school movie. We got the talkies, or I guess we don't have any talkies here. This one is just, there we go. We got it back, and we are ready to go for the turrets siege. 2 minutes, 15 seconds on the Baron buff. Let's see what we can do with this one. Team Dignitas hope to complete their masterpiece here. 32 minutes in, almost. For a bit more to go. Damage on a Shrimp, Flame trying on the wings, but just where is the follow-up? A last whisper in for Cody Sun will help with some tank shredding. Is just so far behind the curve. Infinity Edge done, new Zeal for a lot. You contrast those bot laners' items, and it's night and day right now.
And I mean mid laners as well, right? This is 4 completed items for Keane versus 2 end pieces for Pobelter. So the Cassio is enormous. Dignitas looking to close this one out, are looking very, very poised, very strong.
Pretty likely. Here comes the damage up onto this turret, continuing now as Lod not pulling aggro, just going for a few more auto attacks, but with Black Shield down, has to respect the chance of a flash engage.
And they're playing this very patiently. They're allowing mid lane to push in, so now either Immortals has to engage or they have to deal with those mid lane minions. They need to make a choice essentially right away, though, as this turret is getting chipped down. It's going to go down here pretty soon, and yeah, it looks like they're going to deal with those mid lane minions, so Dignitas can just stay around and on this wave probably kill the turret.
They're going to try for the engage right there. They find him. Lod gets shot up. He's rooted in place. The damage hasn't coming through, but he gets away and he flashed to safety. Lod is just barely up the line. Here comes Let's Bounce, and 1 kill picked up already. It's a trade, though, as Lod has died. And a second kill comes in for Immortals. They're losing their players as well. Xmithie also drops up the map. 3v3, knockup is there. They're going to find Cody Sun. That's the kill picked up. Ssumday leads the charge for a second kill in for Keane, and now it is a 3v1. Olleh left alone inside the base, and going to be turning into sushi soon enough as the rest of that squad ready to push in with Baron up super minions. And game 1 will go to Team Dignitas in this battle for first place. There may only be one team left with a single loss, and it just might be this squad right here in the red as they knock down the final Nexus turret, Nexus itself to follow. One more game goes and Team Dignitas will own first place.
Such a well-played game 1 from them. Immortals looking incredibly dominant against CLG yesterday, but Dignitas make this one look pretty easy, and yeah, they're adding a little style to the substance there.
Endgame calls a bit earlier than they stopped hitting the Nexus. I think we faked out production for a second there, but honestly, it was a well-played game. Team Dignitas 1-0. Shrimp, smile on his face. Keane did work that game. 5-1-6 on him. Lot good as well, 5-1-8. Big with the takeaway in Morgana. I wouldn't say it was perfect on the Black Shields. I think there were a lot of late ones, but it certainly did seem to make the Team Dignitas bot lane do better than the Immortals squad did, who had gotten so much praise overall. It was like, oh, you know, Lodge is kind of there for along for the ride, but Cody Sun's the big carry, and it was really the opposite in this game, where it felt like so much more came out of the Team Dignitas bot lane. I
think their pick ban was extremely intelligent. I think that so much focus on Olleh, we haven't really seen anyone do this yet. So putting him off one of those comfort picks, and while he was fine on the Nami, you know, it's not like you can really attack him and say his play was very poor or anything like that, but he has been such a playmaker and such a catalyst for good things for Immortals, and when he's not on these playmakers, when he's not on the Bard or the Thresh or something like that, it felt like there wasn't a lot going on.
Yeah, that's really the case right here. And we actually had Lod convert really nicely, did the most damage in the game, 21,000 to champions in a 30-minute game. That's a solid number in its own right, but the fact that it was first place was really good. I mean, you consider the fact that, as we talked about, it's a magic damage stack team, so even though Keane did well, he's facing like several adaptive helms, he's facing a bunch of magic resist, and so it came to Lod to do the real damage in the fight because they're all itemizing against Keane, and he did that. And for a player who had low numbers throughout this split, that's nice to see him get that upgrade, to have a full damage build, to be protected by the several tanks in his squad. The Black Shield went there, and they went really nicely. He even got camped for, of course. There was a lot of jungle proximity down to that bot lane, about 24% coming out from Shrimp right there, but it clearly worked.
Yeah, it worked really well, and I think that Ssumday had some good ults down to the bot lane. The team was playing well around it. They knew their win condition. Your AD carry has to be strong in this sort of composition. But even more so for Immortals, like they in team fights are essentially like one-threat team. I mean, yes, there is damage coming out of the Gragas and the Kled.
It exists, but who cares?
And the Galio, but it's not really like the punishing, sustained team fight damage to take down people like the tanks. Yes, it is Chip, it is Poke, but this is not a squishy team. This is, you know, a full tank Zac and the Shen that you have to deal with. That's very, very difficult. So Cody Sun, they simply focus their CC on him, they attack him in the fight, and even if he's just getting pushed out of the fight, the carries from Dignitas are free firing.
Yeah, actually, and they're free firing with better items because Cody Sun has to go buy QSS second item, whether because he got out comped or whether he made a bad choice, doesn't really matter. That was the case he was in, and the damage wasn't there. We have some replays to show real quick. Up first, the 20-minute team fight where Immortals dive mid, and they don't go well with it.
Yeah, and I'm just not sure if they were actually tracking the Shen ultimate here. This was a very nice like set of abilities used by Dignitas. The Black Shield on the lower member, Lod, he had to choose between the Cassio, and then they put the Shen ultimate onto the Keane, onto Cassio there. So it's really nice allocation, and they're able to turn that around, and that was kind of what got them the Baron right afterwards. So it was a good fight. Yeah,
the game was very close up until that point, but that's when it kind of all turned around. Our second replay, 29 minutes in, as Dignitas get the 3-0 to head for the second Baron.
And it's just about Cody Sun here. Cody Sun is really all the damage in the comp for Immortals. So Shen ultimate onto the Zac, move him forward. He gets taunted up into the less bounce. No way for him to really deal with that. And then Lod and Keane, as was the story in almost all the fights, are pretty much untouched. They're just able to pile forward. The tanks are frontlining for them, and there's no real threat onto them.
Yeah, there's no way out for them. As you can see the gold graph right here, it was close for the first 20 minutes right there. It wasn't really too bad. The problem is you had that mid lane team fight. That when the graph starts going down, that was that mid lane 2-for-0 dive turn in a Baron, and just for 10 minutes straight, just a landslide of gold towards Team Dignitas.
And I really did feel like part of the problem about it staying this even for this long is that they are going to get outscaled. I do think that this composition had the advantage going into the late game team fights, so it was something where Immortals, you know, an even game isn't necessarily in their favor. They have to force plays. They have to be getting stuff done with the Gragas and the Galio and the Kled, and it felt like the successful cases in this game were few and far between. There was not really a lot of like Kled ult catches someone, Galio ult, Gragas knocks them in, they get burst down. Like that never really felt like it happened to Lod or Keane, and those are the targets that they needed to be able to get and constantly force plays onto.
Right, and if you are going to play a one-threat team, we saw TSM do that earlier, and they played with Tristana, right? Something a bit safer, something who actually wants to build double Z item and doesn't have to buy a QSS against the Zac, because you're Tristana. You get to do that when you're a champion like this. Varus has to be more defensive. That is not the champion you 1v5 with. And, you know, I guess, yeah, kind of a bad champion for Immortals. Well blown by Team Dignitas, of course. The steal away helped as well. And now we're going to see if Immortals can even up the score when we come back with Game 2 against Team Dignitas. Be right back. See you soon.